Tell Me You Love Me Before I Let Go by Art of Fluorescence. Summary. Midoriya Izuku's father is Midoriya Hisashi, and Izuku remembers love. Love in spite of his quirklessness, in spite of his uselessness. When he's 6, his father disappears. 7 years later, it is his father that saves him, and when he gives Izuku the chance to disappear with him, well, the choice is easy. The story in which All for One loved his son, even when the world didn't, and fate changes. Devastating universe where Izuku goes willingly when All for One vaults him, and its soft, grieving kind of tragedy. History books will remember him as the boy in the vault, the kept artist, All for One's prized possession, a broken boy, an artist valued for his anguish. Some historians will get close to the truth. They will say that the boy was All for One's son, that he was quirkless. Still, none will remember the truth. His name was Midoriya Izuku, and he was only 13 when he was taken, but it had never been All for One that broke him. Arguably, the greatest citizen casualty in those last 5 years, the final crucial moments of a 200-year-old Shadow War, was Midoriya Izuku's spirit. A long, long time ago. Yoichi, you aren't allowed to leave. You know that. Why? Why are you doing this, Hisashi? I'm just trying to keep you safe, little brother. You can't keep me here forever. You can't. Why can't you see I'm just trying to protect you? Present day. Izuku, are you coming with me? Dad, where would you take me? Away, where you can be safe and protected. No one will ever touch you again. No one. Really? Yes, you will never hurt again. Never again. Okay, Dad. Make me disappear. Before. Midoriya Izuku is a 13-year-old quirkless boy, but he remembers how they used to be a happy family before he turned 4 and got the quirkless diagnosis. He remembers his mom and dad deeply in love. He remembers being a child, playing in sandboxes, pretending to be heroes with Kacchan, those golden years. After the diagnosis, his mom got colder, more distant, but not mean or neglectful. She just seems far away from him, a kind of distance that he does not think he will ever understand how to bridge. His dad starts leaving for longer periods of time for his job, citing a promotion. Izuku would have blamed himself, except his dad was still affectionate with him, if not more so. Got big hugs and forehead kisses and overprotective questions about the kids in school. Despite his absences, his dad was the glue at home. He was the one who kept the family together. Because he didn't want to worry his parents, Izuku didn't tell them about how quickly Kacchan and the rest of his friends had abandoned him, about how the bullying started as soon as the kids in his class understood what it meant to call names and kick their feet, about how the teachers turned a blind eye. He was scared of sowing more discord in their already fraying family, so he hid it. And it was easy because his mom was distant and his dad was gone a lot. It wasn't too bad. He got used to it. Then, when he turned 6, everything changes for worse. His dad disappears. Someone, claiming to be his employer, calls them saying that while on a business trip, he had disappeared, never showed up to the next meeting. They say that they'll hire a private investigator and that mom should keep it quiet because they don't want to alert whoever took him. They say that they've already alerted the authorities. His mom, distraught, doesn't ask any more questions. However, despite their silence, people still notice and make assumptions. Soon enough, his classmates realize his father isn't around anymore and begin to further their treatment of him. Rough housing becomes full-on beatdowns, bruised and hurting, as they shout about his uselessness, his weakness, that even his dad abandoned him when they realized what kind of son he was. Zuko endured it, quietly, coldly, alone, as he clutches tightly to the last embers of his father's love. He's 6, just 6. His mom goes from distant to neglectful, silent as she observes the bruises on his arms and legs. She puts the food down for dinner before going to watch TV, as if she cannot bear to look at him. He would lie if he said it did not hurt, but he's not surprised either. It feels like a long time coming. As the years pass, Izuku suspects that his father's disappearance was more than it appeared to be on the surface. He hypothesizes that his father had been dealing in something shady, and the investigation, if it ever even occurred, was a sham. Privately, he hopes that his dad died quickly because the father he knows would be devastated to know how his son is treated nowadays. Izuku does not want him to doubt his ability as a father. Midoriya Hisashi had been the best father to him. More quietly, he hopes that his dad died quickly because that means that his dad is waiting for him when he dies too. I miss you, Izuku whispers to the stars. Izuku endured all sorts of discrimination in his life, both in the public and at school. Because their community is so tight-knit, everyone knows he's the quirkless boy. His green hair makes him distinctive as shopkeepers sneer at him and charge him an extra 50% for everything, and the school bullies get even worse, all while teachers and staff lower their eyes or actively encourage them. He knows very little kindness, even though he still tries to be kind. He knows intimately what it's like to be deprived of kindness, of love, so he does his best to give it when he can. Most of the time, people grimace in disgust and decline his offer to help or his gift of homemade food. Not always, though. In the poorer parts of town, on the outskirts that most kids are warned away from, the homeless and struggling people always accept the food. Maybe that's why he keeps going back. He does his best to be gentle, to be kind, and he finds solace in their scarred, calloused hands. Despite this, he wouldn't call them friends. There's a distance between them in the way they don't share names and are quiet around him. The only person he would dare call a friend is the old man who lives right smack dab in between the poorer parts of town and the wealthier part. He doesn't know his name either, but it's here that Izuku discovers his love for art. It's not a loud or particularly flashy find, but it happens with a soft, dreamy kind of glow one Sunday afternoon. The old man tells him to paint whatever, and he paints a dark, abandoned room with only a dust-coated table and a chair as one hanging light swings, lonely and bereft. He comes out of his trance hours later to sun rays fading out from the window and a finished piece done in acrylic paint. The painting is melancholic and hollow in the emptying way. Izuku's eyes widen. It feels like catharsis, like meditation on all his pent-up grief, for himself, for his father, for their family. The painting isn't perfect, but it shows that he has potential, a good eye for colors, shapes, and shadows. The old man comes back into the room, steps heavy and laborious. You have a lot of sadness in you, boy. Izuku meets his eyes, feeling tired and overwhelmed all at once. Sorry for spending so much time here. I'll head out. You come back here any time you want. You look like you've still got a lot to say, the old man says, gesturing to the painting. Over the next few years, he blooms quietly in this room between paint-covered fingers, unknown and secret to the rest of the world. Between the roasting treatment at school, the cold, cold environment at home, and his blossoming love for art at the old man's house, he doesn't have much thought to spare for his probably dead father. He doesn't really visit the poorer parts of town anymore because the people he knows have mostly left and warned him to go as well. He leaves without too much protest because of his newfound passion for art. Like all things in his life, though, they do not last. The old man dies when he is 10. He goes to visit the house only to watch as the neighbor comes out to watch him with pitying eyes. Sorry, Green Bean. He passed this weekend. Izuku knows he shouldn't be surprised. The old man told him he was getting old and probably only had a few years, long outliving his life expectancy since he had been a heavy smoker when he was younger. It still hits him hard, though, because that room in the house with art supplies and a window had been his safe haven for almost 3 years. I never even got your name, even after 3 years, he murmurs as he gently pushes open the door. Everything is coated in a layer of dust, but it's clear that people have already gone through the house. The food pantry is open and empty, and most of the furniture is gone. Izuku rushes to the back room, hoping it's untouched. As the door creaks open, he exhales in shaky relief, eyes tearing up at the almost untouched art room. The supplies are still there, and most of the paintings are left. They probably weren't regarded as useful or worth much, especially since his earlier paintings are all stacked above his more recent, much more detailed works. He lets tears fall, looking around the room once more before rubbing his eyes and finding a box. He puts all the supplies he can carry into it before stacking his favorite paintings on top, carrying 2 of the landscapes the old man painted on his way out. He doesn't turn back as he leaves the house, walking away and trying to hold himself together. Since he gets home before his mom, he puts everything in the back of his closet and doesn't have to face any of her questions. Later that night, long after dinner, he gets up, unable to sleep in the mind-numbing feeling of grief. His steps are quiet, and he is careful as he digs out his supplies, a smaller canvas, and just the white and black paint. Finding the brushes, he sets everything up on the desk under the dim lighting of his lamp, before creeping to the kitchen to grab a cup of water and paper towels. He paints a scene in black and white. The old man, just a faceless silhouette, sitting in a rocking chair, bathed in the sun rays projecting onto him from the window. The monochrome colors are suffused in grief, but also a deep, deep affection. It's evident in every line how much Izuku cares. He looks at the finished piece, lines loose with grief, and knows that the old man would be so proud of how far he's come. His artwork is beautiful, detailed, and emotional in a way that is extraordinary, prodigious for a 10-year-old. He thinks of his life in befores and afters. The first before his diagnosis as quirkless. Then there was after. Then there was before he met the old man. And now there was after. After is lonely. After is tired. After means that he doesn't have things to distract him anymore. Sure, he still sketches and draws, but the time to paint comes rarely unless he wants to risk someone finding out. His paintings and supplies stay far in the back of his closet. He turns back to hero analysis as a way to cope. Though he never really stopped, his fervent obsession with heroes had abated those few years he spent immersed in painting. His brain, now with nowhere else to turn, immediately hyper-focuses back on heroes. And the people at school can tell. He scribbles in his notes much more often, and there's a new level of dedication and detailing in the drawings depicting heroes. It makes them more violent, but especially Kacchan. It makes Izuku tired, not angry. He wishes he was angry. It would be easier. He's just tired. Sometimes, when Kacchan beats him up, he goes limp, listless, and wonders how long it will be before he can join his dad, before this can be over, head lolling, as he is 10 and wishes to die. Every time he continues to wake up after blacking out, he wonders if he is paying penance for a past life. In another world, Izuku never finds solace in art. In another world, Izuku does not encounter the slime villain until he is 14. In another world, Izuku does not meet All Might until he is 14. In another world, he clutches his dreams tightly and against all odds, he succeeds. This is not that world. 7 years after his dad disappears, he is 13 years old. Izuku is 13 years old and has been 13 years too long. He would gladly sacrifice those first 4 golden years if it meant that he never had to endure these 9 years of hell. 9 years seems inconsequential compared to the lifetime of the Earth. It's barely a blink in terms of the universe. 9 years doesn't even deserve a blink. It's maybe half a concentration of a pupil. But for Izuku, that's over 2/3 of his life, eaten up by endless suffering and the imprint of pain. Izuku thinks he's been breaking for a long time. He thinks that the kindest thing he's done for himself is letting himself shatter. He doesn't hate himself for breaking, though he's wistful when he imagines a world where he is whole. He looks into himself and then out at the world and forgives his gentle, breaking soul. He forgives himself for not being strong enough, and it is kind. The only people who ever gave him a chance to flourish were his dad and the old man. And it's okay that this breaking happens. It's okay. He'll be okay. That's what he tells himself when he picks pieces of himself off the walls, splattered with violence and blood. That's what he tells himself, dragging the remnants of his washed-up memories off the floor. Sure, they can have these parts of him. He's good at giving away parts of himself. The world teaches children that their edges must be sharp, jagged enough to cut straight to bone, to throw punches heavy enough to break bodies and stop hearts. It tells them to be hard and tough, to never bend. Izuku wonders why they do not learn how to handle people gently, how to empathize, how to understand. The way kindness can pay back tenfold. Difference is not deficit, he thinks, or it's not supposed to be. Izuku can never bear to be anything but soft, and it has cost him. By the gods, it has cost him so much. He looks at the scars littering the back of his body and his upper arms, with one on his forearm. Somehow, he did not expect it to cost him his dreams too, and his faith. When he enters the school, it is like any other day. He stares emptily at the spider lilies laying candidly on his desk and thinks, I'm tired, with exhausted eyes. The tired that is bone deep, crawling behind your eyes and settling into the pit of your stomach. The one that is tired, but also means more quietly, I wish I was dead. Dad, will you be mad if I see you early? Sorry, I just miss you a lot. You won't be disappointed, right? It's normal. The day is normal until Kotsky blows up his notebook. Fine, he'll deal with it. But then, you know, if you really want to be a hero that badly, there's actually another way. Just pray that you'll be born with a quirk in your next life and take a swan dive off the roof of a building. Time slips out of his fingers. Kotsky exits after Zuko freezes, smug after finishing his triad, unthinking of the consequences. Very, very slowly, Zuko turns to look out the window, eyes a million miles away. He prays that death is a gentle thing, one that holds your hand and kisses you good night, one that tucks you in and turns off the lights, one that holds you close and waits for you, steadfast and unwavering, one that tells you how proud of you they are, how good you did. He prays that death is like a father, protective and loving. He shakes his head and tries to focus on getting home instead, one step at a time. He likes to pretend it's home, and not a cold, lonely apartment he pretends is one. On his way home, he finds that maybe today is just unlucky. There's a villain with some kind of sludge quirk that manages to sneak up behind him as he passes under a bridge. The villain crawls up his arms into his nose and he thrashes at the horrible choking feeling, suffocating and drowning. Then he hears the villain shush him, saying, I'll make it as quick as possible. Come on, just stop struggling. It'll only be a minute. Izuku thinks for a moment. What does he have to lose? Little by little, he forces himself to relax and let himself slip away into the drowning feeling, reminding himself that it will be over soon. It's horrible, but the villain is efficient and doesn't worsen his pain. He finds it easier to let go in that moment as his vision falls dark. When he wakes up, he's disappointed to see that the villain evidently failed, just lurching as his body automatically goes to expel the intrusion. As he turns to look at his savior, he freezes. It's All Might? His motor mouth explodes as he spits out question after question before thanking him over and over again. All Might chuckles, telling him to slow down. But Izuku can't when he's so excited. Suddenly, he clamps down on his endless stream of questions. Before Izuku can get another word in, a subtle look of panic enters All Might's eyes that he spots right before he says, I hate to cut this short, but I really must go, as he scoops the villain up in a glass bottle. Wait! Just one more question. Do you think a quirkless person can be a hero? Izuku calls out. All Might looks back hesitantly before replying. Well, I think everyone has the potential to do great things. Quirkless people certainly have the potential to help many people in all sorts of fields, like medicine and law. Izuku can hear the but before it even comes out of his mouth. But, in such a dangerous field like heroics? No, I don't think so. People with quirks are already disadvantaged in a lot of situations. Someone quirkless could injure themselves even more severely. Izuku thinks it's such a kind way to say something so cruel. He lets his lips curve into a smile even as his eyes deaden. Oh, okay. Thanks, All Might. He smiles brightly as he jumps away, shouting, No problem, kid! As soon as All Might disappears, Izuku lets the smile drop from his face. Something inside him snaps, and he feels himself float, unanchored, his dreams and faith slipping out of his fingers. It's almost freeing, being untethered like this. The new freedom means that he doesn't have second thoughts when he climbs up the fire escape. This Izuku never sees All Might's other form. He's never carried over to a roof, but he finds himself on one anyway. The building is not super tall, but it's tall enough for him to feel secure that he will die. He looks over the edge, no longer grounded, and lets his lips quirk. He hopes the fall will be soft, forgiving, as it takes him away. He doesn't hesitate any longer. Instead of stepping off the building, it's more like he just lets go. Relief visible on his face as he begins to plunge. The expected darkness and impact never come. Rather, he falls into a pool of swirling cloud of purple-black before exiting into the arms and lap of someone older than him. The arms curl around him and his gangly limbs protectively. He looks up to the face covered in a mess of scar tissue. It's like the face has almost been cut in half, completely unrecognizable on one side, missing an eye and the cartilage of the nose, with the only surviving part being the mouth. The rest of the face feels strangely familiar, even with the webbing distortion of the scar tissue. An eye stares at him. Heartbroken, the man whispers, "Zuko, Bunny, what were you doing?" Izuku freezes in shock because he knows exactly who that voice belongs to. It suddenly clicks whose face he's looking at. "Dad?" "Yeah, Bunny, it's me." His dad tries for a smile despite the stretching of the scar tissue. "You're alive?" Izuku asks in shock, thinking about all the times he dreamed of joining his dead father in the afterlife. "I am," he says quietly. "Why didn't you come back to us? Why did you leave us? Look at my face, Izuku. I got injured real bad. This is the work of a full 6 years of healing, and then it had been 6 years. I thought you were better off without me. Does that mean you're a villain?" His dad only smiles, ruffling his hair, which Izuku absolutely melts into. Clever boy. "Yes, I am. They call me All for One." Izuku looks at his father, the one who loved him dearly, and can find nothing in himself but, "Okay. I missed you. I missed you so much. I don't care what you look like. I waited for you for so long. I wanted you to come back for me." Finally, he lets the tears welling up in the corner of his eyes fall. "I'm so, so sorry, Izuku. I should have been keeping a closer eye on you. I only found out today because one of the tracking quirks I tagged you with said you were in grave danger." "One of your quirks?" "Ah, well, you see, fire breathing isn't my only quirk. I'm known as All for One because I can take and give quirks." Izuku watches with wide eyes as a ball of light appears, hovering above one of his father's hands as proof. "Wait. Why didn't you ever give me a quirk then?" "Because you are my son, and you are perfect the way you are." Because Izuku is kind and gentle and so, so starved for love, he looks into his father's eye and forgives. "I love you, Dad, and you, to the ends of the earth." Izuku's smile is sweet and soft and everything All for One had been craving for the last 7 years. "We need to talk, though, Bunny, about what you just tried to do." "Oh." And Izuku does. He painstakingly walks his dad through the last 9 years of his life, covering the parts he kept hidden even when his dad was still around. It's hard, and they take breaks for water, and his dad is so patient with him, so loving. When he gets to the part about All Might, his father snarls and bundles him closer. Izuku melts into the protective embrace further, half burying his face into his dad's shoulder. It should be awkward, with him being 13, but he is so starved for positive touch that he feels comfortable in his dad's lap. When he describes jumping off the roof, his dad buries his face in Izuku's hair before finally speaking. "Never again, Izuku. Never doubt that I love you, that I will destroy this world just to build another one for you. Never doubt that I would kill for you. I love you so much. You deserve it. You are so worth it." Izuku lifts his head from his father's shoulder just to whisper, "I would not want you to kill anyone in my name." Hisashi allows himself to regret, to feel bitter at his choices to leave his kind, gentle son, to even ever allow him to fall this far, to feel abandoned, unloved. "You are a better man than me, Izuku. You are so gentle, it aches. It's okay, though. You're with me now. You don't need to be anything but soft anymore. You are safe now." Izuku feels tears fall from his eyes and lets himself be loved. Midoriya Izuku disappears, and it is a kind, forgiving thing, just for him. A long, long time ago. The doors are large, thick steel, and contain a humongous rotating combination lock that runs on a timer. The walls are armored concrete, lined with more steel and several feet of concrete. It's a vault. It's horrifying, inhumane, which he fears, and the fear grips him with cold hands, unrelenting and deeply unforgiving as he is pushed in by his own brother. Before he can even struggle, he feels an impact on the side of his head as he is knocked out. As darkness falls across his vision, he feels nothing but helplessness and dawning horror. He didn't know love could be so twisted. Hisashi walks out of the door impassively, letting the metal shut behind him, before he turns around to turn the wheel and make it secure. Present day. The doors are large, thick steel and contain a humongous rotating combination lock that runs on a timer. The walls are armored concrete, lined with more steel and several feet of concrete. It's a vault. Izuku knows he should be scared, but he feels safe instead. Comfortable. Cared for. It's physical proof of how much his dad loves him, of how much he will be protected, of the lengths that his dad is willing to go to for him. No one besides who his father allows will find him here. His eyes are wide and awed as he steps inside, feeling so loved for the first time since his dad left. He doesn't think he would mind staying here forever. He looks back at his dad, standing in the doorway, smiling fondly at him. You like it, Izuku? Izuku's answering smile is soft and happy, and Hisashi treasures it, holding it precious in his mind. I love it, Dad. Hisashi walks forward and cards a hand through Izuku's hair as Izuku tilts his head back, looking at him with wide, wide eyes, gentle and forgiving in a way he will never be able to echo. You can decorate however you like. I have more money than I know what to do with. You can ask for whatever you want. I'll give you everything, Izuku, as long as you stay. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else, Izuku speaks softly, grabbing his father's hand and patting it in reassurance. It's better than anything I could have imagined. Despite the vault door and harsh concrete walls, the inside feels more like a one-bedroom apartment. The entrance leads you into the living room and dining area, with a kitchen in one corner, and two other doors at the end of a short hallway, a bedroom and a bathroom. It's simple, but Izuku feels his heart pulse. It has the potential to be home, something he hasn't had for so long. Here's a phone to text or call me. For any reason, okay? Any reason at all. I'll let you get settled in. Hisashi pats Izuku on the head one last time, eyes creasing in affection as Izuku leans into it. He reluctantly draws his hand away as he walks out, shutting the door behind him. As the door swings shut, he watches Izuku spin around to face the kitchen with arms out and almost disbelieving smile on his face. Hisashi hates the world for breaking his gentle, gentle son, but he would be lying if he did not say that he is overjoyed at how easily his son accepts his new home. A short time later, Hisashi gets a text from his son. Hey Dad, can I have art supplies? Also a laptop for references? List attachment. Of course, I didn't know you painted. Only one other person did, but he passed. He was a very kind old man. I'm excited to see what you create. I hope you like it. Izuku is out of practice, but the trance comes easily. He double-checks his work with reference images as he paints, and feels more awake as that locked-away part of him comes to life. He converts the dining area completely into a small art studio covered in canvases and supplies. It feels like home. His smile is bright. He feels treasured, precious, worthy of care. So loved. When 16-year-old Tomura is introduced to Izuku, he lasts only one day before giving into the affection and kindness that pours off Izuku. Hisashi can only watch fondly weeks later as they curl side by side on the couch, Izuku sketching the start of a new painting onto a canvas sitting in his lap as Tomura plays video games. There's something incredibly mesmerizing about Izuku at work. His talent is extraordinary, and Hisashi is a little bit smug that he gets to keep it to himself, Tomura, and Kurogiri. His paintings are detailed, and real emotions radiate from them in a way that Hisashi almost mistakes for a quirk. If not for his own quirk telling him that Izuku was quirkless, he would believe that this was his son's quirk. His artwork covers a range of different techniques and art movements, all used to convey different emotions. Izuku hangs up the one he paints of their family in his own little home, along with his favorites, filled with dreamy post-impressionism inspired work reminiscing in pre-quirk era art. He plays with light in his paintings like it's nothing, despite his ability to change the feeling of a scene with the angle of his shadows. It's magical. Hisashi hangs up the rest of the paintings, his favorites being the ones featuring surrealism, melting clocks, and half-dream shapes to put in their spaces above ground, like the bar. There are only a few of Izuku's works that don't go somewhere. They are pieces of anguish and grief, dark and dim, shadowed and screaming. They are the ones that carry heavy names like Charon's Ferry, The Fall of Atlas, Effigy of Infinity, Grief on the Open Sky, and Extinguishing Prometheus. They sit with Izuku, stored away in his closet, important because he will not allow himself to forget, but put away because he no longer has a need to dwell on them. Spending time in the vault means coming to terms with lots of things. It means that he has no choice but to make peace. One by one, Izuku allows himself to forgive. Not because his tormentors deserve it, but because Izuku can. He carries his trauma with him forever, but he no longer wants to give them weight in his life. They do not deserve the gravity of his grief. At the age of 15, Izuku hands his dad the Fall of Atlas and tells him that it's time they part. It feels right. All for One sends it to the door of Yue where he knows All Might is, and leaves a note with the painting making sure that All Might knows it's him. Who's the artist? I don't know. Someone named Deku. Useless. Why would they sign themselves as that? Regardless, we need to be careful. All for One is on the move. Did you guys say Deku? Yes, Bakugo, but you shouldn't be listening on conversations. Listen, I don't fucking know if it's just a shitty coincidence, but Deku was what everyone at my fucking middle school called this quirkless kid named Midoriya Izuku. He disappeared when I was 13 and an even shittier asshole than I am now. Haven't fucking seen him since. Midoriya Izuku, you say? Was he an artist? I don't fucking know. He used to sketch a lot of heroes in that fucking notebook of his, though. Why haven't we heard this sooner? A missing kid? He's fucking quirkless. As far as everyone else is fucking concerned, who cares? Midoriya Izuku disappears. People don't start asking questions until 2 years later. It's too late. Always, always too late. Tomura traces his partially gloved hand over one of the scars on Izuku's shoulders as Izuku lays on his chest. They are curled together beneath a blanket as Izuku burrows closer. Tomura smiles fondly, dragging his other hand through the mess of fluffy curls. Izuku only huffs in contentment. Tomura's smile drops when he thinks of the people who caused the scars. Izuku forgives, but Tomura does not. He lets a bloodthirsty grin crawl up his face as he thinks of disintegrating everyone who caused Izuku harm. He remembers how Sensei told him before he first met Izuku, "He's meant to be soft. Be gentle with him, and you'll understand." He didn't get it until he met with Izuku, bright-eyed and still so willing to hand out his own affection despite the world giving him nothing but pain in return. He didn't get it. He still doesn't, but he knows he wants to protect Izuku. Somehow, inexplicably, Izuku loves him and he adores Izuku. He would raise cities and build empires for the small boy with paint-covered hands. Looking down at the warm weight on his chest, he can't help but think that the world does not deserve Izuku. 2 years pass by like a beautiful, beautiful dream. Izuku cannot bring himself to regret his choices. The vault is safe. It keeps him protected, away from the pain, from the sharp, jagged edges that only seek to cut him, and he is loved, so, so loved, and free to give love to people who want it. He has a brother and a dad, and Kurogiri is enough like an uncle that he would believe it. The vault is gentle, it is kind and forgiving in a way that the world never was, a steady support where everyone else sought to take. Freedom is a small, inconsequential price for him to pay, one he would pay 1,000,000 times over. Someone on the internet tries to convince him that he's trapped, that this is wrong, that this is not love. Izuku does not believe them, not when this is the only place that's ever allowed him to be soft, when his dad's and brother's touch have never hurt him despite being dangerous people. He's happy and treasured and safe. He doesn't need anything else. It's everything he ever wished for when he was still a kid and learned what loneliness and hurt meant. It's everything 9-year-old Izuku would have wanted for himself. Don't you understand? He doesn't want to leave. World gone. Don't let anyone take me away, okay, Dad? Never. You belong here. I love you so much, Bunny. The end.